My wife, the woman I'd married just 47 minutes earlier, stood up, raised her glass, and set fire to everything I thought was real. "This dance," she said, "is for the man I've truly loved for the last 10 years. She walked past me, didn't even look. Her dress brushed my arm, light as silk, cold as betrayal, and she stopped in front of my brother. They started dancing. People clapped, laughed, thought it was some charming little surprise. But I wasn't clapping, because I knew what she was doing, and I knew what I was about to do. If you're still here, breathe. It gets worse before it gets better. Let me tell you everything. My name is Graham Wexler. 47 minutes ago, I said vows I meant, under string lights that made every lie look holy. Unchained melody swam across the lawn. Aunt Sheila clapped on the first note like she always does. Silverware chimed. Laughter skimmed the tables. Thin, polite, clueless. I stood there smiling with a mouth that wasn't mine. The air felt colder than it should for California. Her dress had just brushed my arm. My brother's fingers had just closed around her hand. The world didn't spin. It sharpened, clear, surgical. I could see every face, every breath, like I was already outside of it, watching. Don't mistake my silence for surrender. I don't throw punches. I keep receipts. I don't raise my voice. I raise the truth. And tonight, I'm done protecting people who wouldn't spit on me if I were on fire. So stay with me. Count the lights. Hear the song. Remember this room exactly as it was before it learned who these people really are. Because this didn't start here, with a smile and a dance. It started 3 weeks ago, in my kitchen, with a buzzing phone and steam rolling out of a bathroom door. Turn the music down and follow me to the counter. 3 weeks before the wedding, Lena's phone lit up on the counter. She was in the shower, steam breathing under the door. I wasn't snooping. I was living. A preview from D. Can't wait. Same place. 8 p.m. 2 harmless sentences, except for how practiced they felt, like muscle remembering an old sin. Her passcode was my birthday. She'd said we don't keep secrets. The screen opened, and the past unscrolled. Not 5 texts, not 50, hundreds. Beige hotel lamps, mirrored closets, anonymous sheets, receipts that lined up too neatly with work trips, private jokes with punchlines I was never invited to, little I love yous typed where I was supposed to be. Then the line that split me open. After the wedding, we're free. My thumb shook. I tapped the contact. D. The name filled the screen like a verdict. Caleb Wexler, my brother. The smile our town loved. The golden child our family bent around. Cold air moved through me, clean and cruel, like opening a freezer and stepping inside. That was the moment the wedding ended and the evidence began. I stopped being a groom. I became a witness. And a witness keeps digging. If D was Caleb, then when did it start? I thought I knew. Thanksgiving. The night he welcomed Lena into our family. Thanksgiving. The house smelled like cinnamon and turkey, football on low in the living room, my dad carving with the same knife he's used since I was a kid. Caleb walked in late, grinning like the mayor. He always had that light on him. Teachers loved him. Coaches swore by him. Neighbors remembered his name. The Golden Boy. Our parents didn't say it out loud, but the room bent toward him like plants to a window. I brought Lena. She wore a soft sweater and that easy smile people trust before they should. She shook hands, laughed at the right times, offered to help with dishes. Mom touched my elbow, whispered, "She's lovely." Caleb said, "Welcome to the circus," and everybody laughed. I did too. I thought it meant she was one of us. I remember the string of Christmas lights sagging along the mantel, a chipped bowl of cranberries, the way Lena watched Caleb when he wasn't looking. Or maybe it was the way Caleb didn't have to look to know she was watching. Back then, I felt safe. That's the bitter part. Safety was the costume. I wore it, proudly, right until it ripped. I used to think they started later, after the coffee shop, after the movie dates. I was wrong. They'd already met before I ever knew Lena. That night wasn't an introduction. It was a reunion. And once you see that, you stop asking why, and start asking, how do I prove it? I didn't throw a fit. I made a call. "Rebecca Torres," she said. Voice steady, no small talk. 12 years as a PI, most of it cleaning up other people's love stories. I told her what I needed. Not a scandal, not a scene. Proof. Airtight. Enough to end arguments before they start. "What access do you have?" she asked. Her phone. Her passcode. Our shared iCloud. Shared accounts. I can pull screenshots, exports. And him? My brother? He's careful with what matters and sloppy with what doesn't. He loves trophies. She sent a short list. Passwords to collect, devices to image, locations to mark, 2-week window. "You'll be tempted to confront," she said. "Don't. Keep living. Keep smiling. Let them be comfortable." I kept living. I took menu calls. I confirmed flowers. I nodded through seating charts. At night, Rebecca pinged me. Timestamps, hotel names, card swipes, patterns. The more we fed the file, the less I felt rage. Rage burns fast. Evidence keeps. Caleb always liked clouds, backups, albums, shared memories. He thought the digital sky was a safe deposit box. Rebecca didn't smile when she said it, but I could hear the smile anyway. I'll crack his cloud. Start with the trophies. Follow the metadata. If he kept souvenirs, he kept a trail. And if there's a trail, I won't just accuse him. I'll end him with his own receipts. Rebecca sent the file at 2:17 a.m., 300 pages, neat as a knife block. I scrolled while the apartment hummed with fridge noise and nothing else. Hotel invoices stacked like shingles. Palmer House, the Langham, the same Saturday check-ins, the same Sunday exits. Room service notes scrawled with initials that weren't mine. Line items that smelled like secrecy. 2 glasses, 1 dessert, always late. Flights next, Miami, Cancun, boarding passes. Return dates that lined up perfectly with work trips. Photos I'd never seen. Beige lamps, mirrored closets, ocean through a sliding door. The dates and times were smug. They matched each other like alibis rehearsed too long. Then the witness, a front desk clerk's statement. They were regulars. He tipped in cash. She wore a ring sometimes, not his. My jaw locked so hard it clicked. Jewelry receipts followed. $18,000 set, bracelet and earrings, purchased 3 months before I proposed. I pictured the box I never saw, the shine I never gave. Page after page, the pattern stopped being a pattern and became a confession. Not written in words, written in transactions. Cold, clean, unarguable. I checked the payment methods, as if hoping for a miracle. There it was at the bottom of page 92, and then again, and again. All of it charged to Caleb's card. This wasn't suspicion anymore. It was math. Tomorrow, I'd make a different call. I called James Chen in the morning. He didn't ask for my story. Lawyers don't need poetry. He needed facts. Illinois, Cook County, ceremony this Saturday. Then he said it plainly. The ceremony isn't the marriage. Filing the license is. Silence in my kitchen. Coffee gone cold. The clock on the stove saying 8:03, and somehow that felt important. So if I don't file, I asked, what are we? 2 people who threw a party, he said. No judgment, just the law. Most couples assume the officiant files it. If you hold the license and never submit, there's no marriage to unwind, no assets to divide, no rights to claim. You walk away. I stared at the envelope on the table. Thick paper, fancy seal. It looked official enough to ruin a life. Keep it on you, he added. And keep your mouth shut. Don't warn her. Don't explain. If you want out, you walk out clean. I slid the license into the inside pocket of my suit jacket and felt the weight settle against my chest. Not heavy. Final. The plan sharpened. Let their show play. Let the crowd clap. Let the song swell. But when the lights go up, there's nothing legal to stand on. She can dance with whoever she wants. She will never be my wife. I followed the money. Caleb always liked to brag about his venture, the one Dad staked with 50 grand. I called my father first. He went quiet, then said he'd never seen paperwork. No LLC, no EIN. Just a promise and a handshake, the way he used to do business before the world got teeth. I hired a forensic accountant. Not a dramatic guy, khakis, glasses, voice like a spreadsheet. He took bank statements, card histories, travel logs. 2 days later, he called back. "You might want to sit down." I didn't. He read it out. Wire in, wire out. The 50 went straight to a personal account. Then it bled out in predictable ways. 18 months of weekend hotels, flights to Miami and Cancun, a jewelry purchase that could feed a family for months, restaurants with white tablecloths and receipts that still smelled like wine. He sent the report. Page after page, the timeline locked arms with Rebecca's file. Same dates, same rooms, same lies. The math didn't judge, it just pointed. I stared at the summary at the end. The conclusion was one line, dry as a verdict. There was no company. I dialed Dad back. He didn't speak for a long time. When he did, it sounded like something inside him closed. Now I knew where their money went. Next, I needed to know where Caleb went when he wasn't with her. Public records don't care about charisma. I searched the marriage index, county by county, the way you check a lock you already know is broken. Nevada lit up first. A PDF that didn't blink. Names, dates, signatures. Caleb Wexler married Danielle Cruz in Las Vegas 2 years ago, while I was picking out a ring. I found her through a dental office website in Henderson. Called on my lunch break, stood in the parking lot staring at a cracked paint line while the phone rang. "Danielle?" "Yes?" "My name is Graham Wexler. I'm Caleb's brother." Silence. Then a laugh that wasn't a laugh at all. "Caleb told me his family died. Car accident in college." "We're not dead," I said. "He just needed you to think we were." I told her about Lena, about the hotels, about the wedding this weekend, and the dance she planned like a trophy show. I tried not to make it sound like revenge. I tried and failed. She breathed in slow. "How long?" 10 years, I said. "For me, 4. For you, 2 on paper." Something hardened in her voice. "Email me the details." I did. Venue, time, where to stand, what to wait for. "Why invite me?" she asked. "Because they want an audience," I said. "I want a witness." The line went quiet, then clicked. She was in. Now the storm had a face, and it was walking toward our altar. The sun came hard and clean, no clouds, no mercy. Vinewood looked like a postcard, white chairs, trimmed hedges, the ocean somewhere just past the trees. Lena floated through it all in lace and smiles, hugging cousins, kissing cheeks, selling the picture. Caleb watched her the way a thief watches an unlocked door. He tried to be casual. He never was with her. I kept my distance, shook hands, thanked people for coming, smiled until my jaw clicked. Every now and then, Lena's perfume slid by, soft, expensive, like it had something to prove. I checked the time too much. 10 hours of planning left. 2 hours of reception. 30 minutes to the toasts. The train was moving and I'd already greased the tracks. Miles leaned in, voice low. "You good?" "I'm here," I said. "You sure you want all of it?" I watched Caleb's eyes track Lena across the lawn. "All of it," I said. "Countdowns aren't just numbers. They're a posture, a way you hold yourself when you know the floor is about to drop." "Tonight," I told Miles, "is the night of truth." He nodded once, like he'd been bracing too. The string quartet tuned up. The photographer called for family. We walked forward, everyone smiling for the camera. The clock kept walking with us. We stood under the arch and said words I grew up believing. I meant mine. Lena cried at the right syllables, a single tear, center left cheek, just where the photos like it. When the officiant reached for the envelope, I beat him to it, slid the marriage license into my inside pocket. The paper had weight. The seal had teeth. It pressed against my ribs like a reminder with edges. Applause, kisses on air, hands on shoulders. The servers moved in with salads, silver lids lifting like a magic trick. DJ Ramsey shifted to dinner music, harmless and warm. Mom found my eyes across the table. She smiled, then didn't. Mothers know when air changes. I lifted my glass and gave her the smallest nod I could manage. Inside, the decision clicked shut. Not rage, not theater, policy. I would not file. This would be a party, and only a party. No claims, no split, no we. My heartbeat slowed, not sped up. Control doesn't make noise. I touched the pocket again, a talisman and an off switch. If Lena reached for the future later, she'd find paper and nothing beyond it. Plates landed, forks chimed, the room settled. Next up were the toasts, Miles, then the bride. I let the license warm against my chest and waited for the match. Miles went first. He kept it light. College stories, a bad haircut I swore I'd never had, the time we rebuilt a grill and nearly lit the yard. The room loosened. Laughter bounced off the tent like a tennis ball, clean, harmless, exactly what a wedding needs to breathe. Then it was the bride's turn. Lena stood, glass in hand, smile locked in. She thanked my parents, the vendors, the friends who traveled so far. Her voice was steady. She'd practiced this. People leaned in, ready for sweet. I watched her eyes. They weren't looking at me. She lifted her glass a little higher. "There's one more thing," she said. "This dance is for the man I've secretly loved for the last 10 years. Chairs scraped, forks stopped. Laughter snapped shut like a briefcase. She didn't look at me. She turned, walked past, perfume, silk, the soft hiss of fabric, and stopped at Caleb. His jaw tilted into that old quarterback smile, the one the world always forgave. She reached out. He took her hand like they'd rehearsed it. The room made that sound people make when they're not sure if it's a joke. DJ Ramsey read the cue and cued the track. They stepped onto the floor together. The picture was pretty. The truth wasn't. I stood up. The first note hit and the room sighed, grateful for something to do other than think. Unchained melody filled the tent, slow and warm, like nostalgia trying to smother a fire. They moved easily, her head tipped just right, his hand easy at her back. If you didn't know better, you'd call it romantic. If you did, you'd call it a confession in 4/4 time. People clapped, tentative at first, then louder. A wave of approval for something they didn't understand. A cousin whispered, "How sweet." Someone else said, "What a modern family." I heard every word like it was spoken into my ear. Mom leaned close. "Are you okay?" "Give it a minute," I said. My voice sounded like gravel, not weak, not broken, set. I watched their feet, the small turns, the private rhythm. I thought about hotel lamps and mirrored closets. I thought about receipts. I thought about the envelope pressing against my chest. Paper instead of chains. Lena glanced over her shoulder, quick, a flicker of fear cutting through the smile. Caleb kept grinning. He always did when he thought the world was on his side. I stepped away from my chair, past the table, past the looks. The dance floor opened in front of me like a target. I walked to the center and took the microphone. "Kill the music," I told DJ Ramsey. The song died mid-breath. Chairs creaked. I opened my phone, tapped AirPlay, and the big LED behind us woke up. Blue, then white, then a thread of messages that didn't belong at a wedding. Bubbles stacked, dates, times, pet names I'd never heard. The room started to hiss, low whispers, the sound of air leaving a tire. A cousin covered her mouth. An uncle leaned forward like he'd lost his glasses. Lena didn't move. She just stopped. The smile went first, then the color. I kept my voice level. "We're going to keep this simple," I said. "No shouting, no scenes, just the record." I swiped. "Can't wait for tonight. Same place. 8 p.m. Swipe. Wish it was you I was marrying. Swipe. After the wedding, we'll figure it out. Just play along." People turned toward Caleb. He still had his hand on her back, like he could hold the world in place by touching it. He couldn't. I pointed at the top of the screen. The contact name was big and plain. D. Caleb Wexler. Gasps hit the tent like rain. Someone said, "Oh my God," the way a prayer sounds when it's too late. Lena blinked. Once, twice. Her fingers floated up, not to me, to the phone, like she could pull the words back in. "We'll start," I said. 7 years ago. And then I scrolled. Hotel photos first. Mirrored closets, beige lamps, a city view I never saw. Same weekends, same checkout times, same 2 glasses on a tray, Then flights. Miami, Cancun. Boarding passes lining up with work trips, each one a neat little lie stamped by TSA. Receipts from white tablecloth places. Wine I didn't drink. Dinners for two. Signatures I knew were his. I clicked to jewelry. A bracelet and matching earrings. 18 grand. Purchased 3 months before I proposed. I pictured a box I never held, light catching on a wrist that smiled for someone else. The room felt smaller. The LED was a window you couldn't look away from. I let the words speak for themselves. He'll never suspect. After the wedding, we'll figure out the divorce. Just play along for now. The kind of lines that don't need commentary. They indict. My mother was standing now, one hand over her chest, the other gripping a chair. My father's jaw set in that old way from when bills were due and money wasn't there yet. Guests tried not to stare and failed. I turned to Caleb. Quarterback smile gone, throat working, hands empty. "Do you deny it?" I asked. Not a shout. A sentence with no air around it. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Caleb tried to talk and tripped over his own mouth. "Graham, this—" Nothing followed. My father stood, old spine straight, hands flat on the table like he was bracing a storm. The LED still burned behind us. My mother pressed a hand to her chest, wedding corsage trembling like a small bird. "Where's the 50,000, Caleb?" I asked. No heat, just wait. He blinked. "Dad loaned me. It was for the startup." "What startup?" My father's voice had gravel in it. "I never saw a lease, a license, a tax filing." The room went still enough to hear the refrigeration hum from the bar. I swiped to the next set of slides. Account numbers blacked out, everything else clean. Wire in, personal account. Then bleed, hotel charges, airline codes, restaurants, line after line, tidy as a ledger carved in stone. I zoomed a page. No LLC, no EIN, no payroll, no vendors, no rent, no product, no company. The words sounded shriller in the speakers than they did in my head. Caleb swallowed, eyes flashing around for a softer version of the truth. There wasn't one. My mother sank into a chair, fingers white at the knuckles. An aunt muttered a prayer. Forks lay untouched, like silver witnesses. I let the silence carry the verdict. Then I turned the page again. Here's where it went. I was double-checking the files when my phone buzzed. Mom lit up the screen. I hesitated, then answered. "Graham," her voice trembled. "We need to talk." I stepped out of the reception, down a side hall lined with catering carts and quiet exits. The light overhead was cold and honest. "You found out, didn't you?" she said. I didn't answer. "You knew?" I asked. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for months. "A friend saw Caleb and Lena in Cancun. That was over a year ago." I asked. He denied. She cried. I thought it was a phase, a mistake. My jaw tightened. "And you stayed quiet." "I was trying to protect the family," she whispered. "Your father couldn't take another fracture." Silence stretched, the kind of silence that cracks foundations. "I should have told you," she said, voice low, "but I didn't think you'd take it this far." My throat burned. "You heard the audio, didn't you? The reception plan, the moment she wanted to make." Another pause. Then, "It popped up on our shared iCloud. I didn't want to believe you'd go through with it." I clenched the phone. "This isn't about revenge, Mom. It's about ending the cycle. I'm not covering for anyone anymore." She started to cry, not just from guilt, but from knowing that this time, I wasn't coming back. I read the forensic summary out loud, the way you read cause of death. The 50 went fast, 18 months of weekend hotels, flights lined up with fake conferences, white tablecloth bills that tasted like other people's nights, an $18,000 bracelet and earrings purchased 3 months before I proposed. Dates and times married Rebecca's file like puzzle pieces that had always known where they belonged. Caleb's face slicked with sweat. He dabbed at it with a cocktail napkin that fell apart in his hand. Lena held her glass with both hands like it was the only thing keeping her upright. On the screen, "After the wedding, we'll figure out the divorce. Just play along for now." The text didn't blink. It didn't need to. I kept going. Funds diverted from a family loan to personal expenses. No business activity detected. High correlation between expenditures and documented meetings with Ms. Harper. Clinical. Cruel because it was true. My father stepped closer, not looking at the screen anymore, looking at his firstborn like a stranger he wished he'd never met. "You will repay me," he said, each word on its own feet. "By Monday, every cent, or I file." Caleb opened his mouth and shut it. Lena finally looked at me, eyes wet, not with love, panic. The room didn't breathe. And I hadn't even shown them the marriage certificate yet. "It's not over," I said. The tent held its breath. I swiped, and the LED filled with a Nevada marriage certificate. Clean fonts, clerk's seal, the kind of paper that doesn't care about your feelings. Caleb Wexler married Danielle Cruz. Date, time, witness. While I was out ring shopping. A shout cracked from the back, sharp, involuntary. Heads turned. I lifted a hand and pointed toward the service door by the catering tables. "If anyone needs clarification," I said, "she's right there." The door swung. Danielle stepped in, black dress, hair pulled back, face set like a verdict. She didn't rush. She didn't need to. The room rearranged itself around her. Forks froze. Chairs squeaked. Somebody whispered, "No way," like the words could undo ink. I kept my eyes on Caleb. His color drained in stages, like a bad photograph fading. He let go of Lena without realizing his hand had moved. Lena stared at him like a person realizing the cliff wasn't the end. There's also the drop. Danielle kept walking. Each step sounded like the end of something. The LED glowed behind me, the clerk's seal bright as a bruise. My father stopped looking at numbers and started looking at his son. My mother threaded her fingers together like she was holding a prayer closed. "It's not over," I said again, softer now. And then Danielle reached the edge of the dance floor. Danielle didn't glance at the screen. She didn't need proof. She had a marriage license. She walked straight for Caleb. He opened his mouth and nothing made sense in it. The quarterback smile was gone, replaced by skin too tight for his face. Lena turned to him, voice small and pointed at the same time. "You're married?" It wasn't a question that wanted an answer. It was a fire alarm. Silence spread, a cold, heavy thing. You could hear the AC kick on. You could hear shoes re-grip the floor. Danielle's heels hit the wood one by one, a metronome for endings. She stopped a foot from him. Up close, you could see the tired under her eyes. 2 years, she said. Not to me, not to Lena. To him. 2 years of lies. Caleb tried to touch her wrist. She took his hand off like removing something sticky. Then she slapped him. Flat, sharp, public. Gasps ricocheted across the tent. The sound hung in the air like a gavel. "We're done," she said, voice steady. "My lawyer will contact you." She turned to me, jaw set. "Thank you for the invitation." Then she walked past Lena without looking, past the guests, past the life she thought she had, and left. Caleb stood there, blinking at a plate that wasn't his. Lena swayed, gripping her glass so tight I waited for it to break. I hadn't raised my voice. I didn't have to. I changed the slide. The LED went from paperwork to a black screen with a play icon. I tapped it. Lena's voice filled the tent, bright, careless, the way people sound when they think no one will ever hear them. "Yeah, we're doing it at the reception," she told her friend. "Big. Make it a moment. Bride ditches the groom. Instant trend." Chairs scraped. A cousin hissed. Someone near the bar said, "Are you kidding me?" The sound in the room shifted from shock to temperature, hot, mean, collective. Lena lurched toward me, hand up like she could swat the audio out of the air. "Turn it off!" she screamed. "Graham, turn it off!" The recording kept going. "We've hidden long enough. I want everyone to see who I belong to." Laughter on the other end. Plans about the song, the timing, the way people would film it, how it would own the internet by morning. I paused the clip and let the silence land. Glasses shook on the tables. The tent fabric ticked in the wind. "You wanted a spectacle," I said. "You scripted it. You cast it. You even picked the soundtrack." She shook her head, tears moving but not falling. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "You're not a victim, Lena," I said, cold and clean. You're the director of this humiliation." The room believed me. And that's when Caleb finally tried to speak. "This was her idea," Caleb blurted, pointing like a kid caught with a broken window. She pushed it. She threatened." "Threatened what?" Lena snapped. "You promised to leave your wife. 2 years, Caleb. 2 years of lies. You said Vegas was a mistake and you were fixing it." They stood facing each other, not holding hands now, just holding fire. 2 liars arguing over who lit the match. The guests pulled back like the floor might crack. My father sat down slowly, palms flat on his knees. My mother stared at the linen, somewhere between praying and leaving her own body. "She told me to keep it quiet," Caleb said, voice climbing. "Said after the wedding. After the wedding you were finally going to choose me," Lena cut in. "You said it every week. Soon. You wore me like a backup plan." A low, collective ooh moved through the tent, the sound of people noticing the ground truth. When cheaters run out of cover, they chew each other. Caleb tried the smile. It didn't land. Lena tried the tears. They didn't buy her anything. I lifted the mic just enough. "Here's the thing about betrayal," I said. "It scales." They looked at me, then back at each other, then down. "Cheaters," I finished, "always cheat each other." Silence pinned them to the spot, and I still had one more nail to drive. One more nail. I looked straight into the nearest lens, the one sitting on a tripod by the dance floor. Miles caught my eye and nodded. The stream went live. A red dot bloomed, and the comments started rolling like hail. "What is happening? Bro, is this real? Stay live." Phones lifted all over the tent. Screens glowed like a second constellation. I felt strangely calm. When you've got the facts, you don't need volume. You need reach. Miles steadied the feed, killed the auto brightness, pinned the LED in frame. The viewer count climbed, hundreds, then thousands, numbers flipping like mile markers on a long road. "This isn't gossip," I said. "It's not a stunt. It's not payback for a bad date in 2012. It's a record. Texts, receipts, timelines. If you're watching, you're not a spectator. You're a witness." More comments. "Show the proof. Stay with it. Don't let them spin it." I scrolled a line of messages, then a photo, then the certificate again. It wasn't theater. It was inventory. My mother's hand hovered near her mouth. My father stared through my brother like through a wall he'd finally found the door in. Lena stood small, Caleb smaller. The tent didn't breathe. The audio meters ticked clean green. "The truth," I said, letting the words settle where vows had been, "belongs to the public." And the number in the corner kept rising. Lena's knees softened. She sat hard, glass knocking against a plate. "Graham, please." Not a performance now. Thin, breaking at the edges. "I messed up. I panicked. I can fix it. We can fix it. Take it down, please." I let the plea hang. Silence is a tool. It lets people hear themselves. Around us the room waited, the way a field waits for the next crack of thunder. Somewhere a fork touched china and the sound felt loud enough to cut. "I love you," she said. "I was stupid. I was scared. We can start over. Say the word and I will end this right now." I thought about hotel lamps and 2 glasses on one tray, about my father's loan bleeding into weekends and rooms with names I'd never see on a bill, about the line on her phone. "After the wedding, we're free." Forgiveness isn't weakness. Sometimes it's boundary. Sometimes the kindest thing you can say is no, to stop a person from dragging you into the same ditch again and calling it love. I met her eyes. "You didn't trip into this," I said. "You chose it. For years." She shook her head, tears finally falling. "Please." I stood there a beat longer, then gave her the only truth I had left. "You chose this road," I said. "I'm just letting you walk it." Lena's face hardened. The tears shut off like a faucet. "I'll sue," she said, voice flat. "You recorded me. You humiliated me. This is illegal." She took a step like she'd found a ledge. I pulled a folder from my jacket. Dates, signatures, notices, things that don't care how loud you talk. "Public event," I said. "Consent posted on entry, vendor capture, venue surveillance, evidence obtained from shared devices and accounts." Dry words, but they cut. James Chen stepped forward from the back, tie loosened, eyes clear. "He's within his rights," he said to the room, not to her. "The recordings and exhibits presented here were lawfully obtained. If you want to discuss statutes, we can do it Monday, in court." A long breath went through the tent, the sound people make when they realize a fire won't jump the line. Chairs settled. A cousin shook her head. Someone near the bar muttered, "That tracks." Lena's hand trembled, then curled. "You set me up," she whispered. "No," I said, holding the folder like a mirror. "You filmed yourself. I'm just pressing play." She looked around for a kinder angle of the truth and found none. "You're not a victim," I said, tone even. "You're the director of this humiliation." The room didn't argue, and I still had one more piece of mercy to give. I took out a single sheet of paper, creased, soft at the edges. "This is an email I wrote the night I found the messages," I said. "I never sent it. I read it the way you read something you meant at the time. Lena, there's a world where I forgive you. We stop now. You cut him off. No more lies. We go to counseling. We tell our families the truth. We get small and honest and boring together. I can live with boring if it's real, if you choose me and only me." I looked up. The tent was quiet enough to hear glasses settle. "There was a path," I said. "It wasn't pretty, but it was there." I kept reading. "If you go public, if you turn us into a spectacle, I'm done. Not angry, done. I won't scream. I won't hit back. I'll just walk away and let the facts speak. That's my line. Cross it, and it's over." I folded the page once, then again, then once more until it was small. "You had a choice," I said. "You didn't slip. You planned." Her mouth opened, then closed. "I didn't end this," I told her, voice low. "You did when you chose that dance." I slipped the folded paper into my pocket, next to the license I wouldn't file. "You chose this ending," I said, and the room understood exactly what ending meant. I let the words hang for a second, each one heavier than the last. The camera lights seemed to freeze in midair as I took a breath. "I didn't file the marriage license." I let that sink in, a low hum through the crowd that could only grow. This is just a party." Lena's face drained. Her eyes widened, and she reached for the back of the chair like it was the only thing keeping her standing. People shifted, whispers low at first, then louder, until the entire room seemed to roar with disbelief. The sound of disbelief is louder than you think. The flash of cameras picked up speed, frantic, desperate to capture what no one could believe. I didn't flinch. I didn't need to. Lena dropped to her knees, her hands trembling. You... She stammered, looking at me with desperation now, as if pleading could make the truth disappear. I stepped closer, the words coming slow and steady. "You were never my wife. Not legally. Not in any way." The room exploded into chaos. The cameras wouldn't stop. The guests, those who had believed in the fairy tale, now wrestled with the reality unfolding in front of them. And for the first time tonight I felt no satisfaction, only the sharpness of finality. The truth had been set free, and there was no going back. My father stood across from Caleb, each word like it was meant to be the last. "You have until Monday," he said, his voice clipped and cold. "Pay back every cent you took or I'll file. I'm not asking anymore." Caleb's face crumpled. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He sank into his chair like the weight of everything he'd stolen had finally caught up with him. My mother stood still, her eyes glassy, her hand clasped over her mouth as she tried to breathe through it. "I don't want your money," I said, my voice level. "I want what's mine, the truth." My father's eyes flickered between Caleb and me, torn between loyalty and a decade of betrayal he'd never seen coming. There was no chance for forgiveness in the air. The air had already gone cold, replaced by something much colder, an abyss where family didn't exist anymore. I looked at Caleb one last time. The brother I'd known was already gone. The man who sat before me now wasn't even a stranger. He was a ghost. "This is the end," I said, turning away from the wreckage. "From now on, we're not brothers." And as I walked away, the room stayed still. Caleb slumped lower, My mother's tears stained the air, and my father stood, rigid, not sure if he had just lost a son or just seen the truth come for him too. I walked out through the service corridor, past trays of half-finished desserts and a bucket of melting ice. The night air hit me like rinse water, clean, cold, honest. Out in the lot, an Uber Black idled under a flickering security light, driver's arm on the wheel, eyes forward. I put my hand on the handle and paused. "Graham!" Miles jogged up and pulled me into a quick, rough hug. No speeches, just wait. "You did the right thing," he said into my shoulder. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like setting a bone. I looked back at the ballroom. Through the glass, everything moved at once. Cameras up, mouths open, hands covering faces. The LED still glowed like a wound. Somewhere my mother was sitting very still. My father was standing too straight. Caleb was learning how heavy silence can be. Lena. I couldn't see Lena. "Text me when you land," Miles said. "I will," I lied. I got in. The leather was cool. The driver met my eyes in the mirror and didn't ask questions. I closed the door. The seal thunked, a quiet, final sound. Behind me, the ballroom erupted into rumor, outrage, analysis. Above me, a California moon shaved thin as a blade. The car eased forward. The door stayed shut. LAX smelled like coffee and jet fuel and goodbyes. I walked to the counter and changed the reservation. Our honeymoon to Iceland became one-seat aisle. The agent didn't blink. She slid the new ticket under the glass like mercy. I found a spot near the gate, 3 chairs from the charging station. A kid watched cartoons without headphones. A man argued softly with someone named Denise. I scrolled my phone once to clear the red badges, then hit Do Not Disturb. Messages still stacked. Mom, Dad, Miles, unknown numbers, a blocked caller that I didn't need a name for. The feed from the wedding had already sprouted copies. There would be versions of tonight I wouldn't recognize. That's fine. The truth doesn't need me to babysit it. I leaned back and watched the board flip. Reykjavik. On time. A line of blue text that felt like a door opening the right way. I thought about fury, how hot it burns and how little it builds. I thought about the envelope in my jacket and the small folded email next to it. 2 choices I'd already made. The PA cracked. Now boarding Group 1. I wasn't Group 1. I wasn't special. I was a man with a ticket and a pulse. I closed my eyes and let the world shrink to breath. I choose to survive, not to stay angry. Iceland was all edges. Black rock, white ice, wind that didn't ask your permission. I took a trail that climbed beside a river and kept climbing. The air slapped my face clean. Snow spit sideways. My lungs burned in a way that felt like proof I was still here. I kept moving until the sound found me. A waterfall beating the earth like a drum that never tired. Mist soaked my jacket. I stood there and let it hit me. The noise was bigger than thoughts. Bigger than rooms and screens and names. I thought about dignity, the kind that doesn't post, doesn't plead, doesn't beg to be understood. The kind you carry when no one's clapping. The kind you earn by saying no, once, clean, forever. I'd spent years trying to be agreeable, the easy brother, the safe choice. It didn't save me. It just made me convenient. I put my hand on the cold rail and said it out loud, not for the rocks, not for God, just so I'd hear it with my own ears. Honor, no one gives it to you. You hold it yourself. The wind took the words and didn't give them back. On the walk down, my phone buzzed through Do Not Disturb, buzzing anyway. I didn't look, not yet. I had breath to finish, steps to take, a new spine to grow. Back at the hotel, I finally turned the phone on. The lock screen was a wall of red. The stream had been clipped, reposted, stitched. 17 million views in 48 hours. Headlines that sounded like dares. Groom exposes bride at wedding. Brother implodes. Comment sections on fire. Strangers drawing lines in the sand. Messages poured in. Men my age. Nice guys aren't weak. We're patient. Women. Cheating culture isn't romantic. It's wrought with lighting. Some wanted blood. Some wanted details. Some just wanted to be heard. I scrolled a little, then less. I didn't make a statement. I didn't do an interview. The truth doesn't get stronger because you repeat it louder. It gets clearer because you stop wrestling it. I let the video do its work. I let the receipts keep their shape. I let people argue with timestamps and lose. A producer emailed. A podcast begged. A lawyer from Nevada nodded at my choices in 3 short sentences. Miles, proud of you. Eat something. Mom, call me when you can. Dad sent nothing. That felt right. I put the phone face down on the desk. Outside, the North Atlantic moved like a dark animal. Inside, the room held still. I stayed quiet and gave the microphone to the facts. The ripple didn't stop at the tent. It hit Caleb's office next. HR called him in, closed the door, and opened a folder that already knew the ending. Character matters, they said. He handed over a badge and a laptop and walked out lighter in all the wrong ways. Danielle filed the next morning, service by courier, no note, just papers that spelled enough. My father met a clerk at the courthouse by lunch and stamped a civil suit that didn't tremble when he signed it. The social part came free. Clients ghosted. Golf partners forgot how to text. The same people who loved his grin now avoided his shadow. He listed the car, then the condo. Shiny things gone in a week, cash leaking through lawyer retainers and back rent he'd pretended not to notice. He moved into a studio that smelled like someone else's dinners and damp drywall, where the window stuck and the neighbors argued through paper walls. I didn't celebrate. I noted. This is what happens when truth finally shows its teeth. It bites through reputation and bank accounts just the same. The court dates stacked on his calendar like small gravestones. The calls to me stopped. There was nothing to say that wasn't already written down. Justice didn't come loud. It came in 2 lanes, public and legal, arriving together like a pair of headlights on a dark road. Lena went quiet the noisy way. Accounts vanished, photos pulled, comments turned off until there were no comments to turn. Friends who had clapped for the moment at my wedding acted like they'd missed it. Others unfollowed in neat rows, clearing the feed like a controlled burn. She left town under weather. Seattle, a sublet near a light rail stop, rain that forgives nothing and no one. I heard she found work, junior role, new email, a desk by a window that looked at a brick wall. A clean slate is never clean, it's just new. She learned to take lunch alone. She learned a city where no one cared who she had been, only whether she hit her deadlines. A piece of mail found me anyway, an invoice from a storage unit with her name on it, my address still attached like a barnacle. Box numbers, months due. I paid it and sent the key with no note. Not kindness, not weakness, just finishing what was mine to finish, nothing more. There's a version of justice that shouts, and there's the kind that ends quietly. No speeches, no trophies, just the absence of harm going forward. I didn't forgive her. I didn't chase her either. I let our lives separate like oil and water. A kind ending is still a kind of justice. My mother called on a Sunday when the house was quiet enough to hear the clock think. We traded weather, groceries, the church bulletin, all the soft cloth you use to wrap sharp things. Then she asked it, gently. Can you forgive him? Can you forgive her? No, I said. The word didn't explode. It landed, flat, final. I wasn't angry when I said it. I was clear. Forgiveness isn't a coupon you hand out so other people can shop your peace for free. Sometimes not forgiving is how you keep what's left of yourself. Sometimes love for your own life means locking certain doors and walking away with the key. She breathed. I understand, she said. And I believed her. She's a mother. Understanding hurts. I just needed to hear you say it. I'm okay, Mom, I told her. I'm not bitter. I'm careful. We talked 2 more minutes, medicine refills, Dad's tomatoes. Then I said I had to go. Not a slam, not a scene, just a clean ending to a hard call. We said I love you. We hung up. I stood in the kitchen and let the fridge hum fill the room back in. Boundaries don't make noise either. They just hold. I grabbed my jacket. Miles had texted an address, small place on Kinsey. Time to sit with someone who knew the whole story and didn't flinch. The bar on Kinsey was narrow and warm, brick walls soaked with 100 winters. Miles had a booth in the back, 2 bourbons sweating on napkins. He stood, pulled me in, then sat. No speeches. He just looked at me like a man checking a friend's pulse with his eyes. "You're different," he said. "Probably harder," I answered, "but also truer." He nodded. "Clean lines. No more explaining." We let the first sip burn all the way down. Somewhere near the door, a couple argued softly about rent. A Bulls game played without sound. The world kept being the world. I told Miles I wasn't chasing revenge. I was chasing quiet. That I'd rather live small and honest than big and crooked. That I wasn't auditioning for anyone's approval anymore. Not family, not crowds, not ghosts. He grinned. "Took you long enough." I thought about the license still folded in a drawer, the email folded smaller, the way the word no had become a kind of shelter. "There's a cost to truth," I said, "but it's cheaper than lying." Miles lifted his glass. I lifted mine. "To honesty," he said. "To honesty," I echoed. We clinked once, solid, simple, and drank what was left. Outside, Chicago exhaled frost. Inside, it felt like the first warm room after a long road. The envelope was thick, cream, engraved with a flourish that tried too hard. Caleb's new wedding invitation. I let it sit on the counter for an hour like a test I refused to study for. Then I slid a thumb under the flap, glanced at the names, the date, the venue, the smiling fonts that pretended history is optional. I dropped it in the trash. It made a soft sound, like a lie giving up. Mom called that night. We took the long way, weather, church, her knees, before she cleared her throat. "Did you get your brother's invitation?" "I did." "Will you come, just to keep the peace?" "There isn't a peace to keep." She was quiet. "We could sit in the back. No one would—" "No, Mom. Not a fight. A boundary. You and Dad go. You represent the family. That's enough." Silence stretched, then thinned. "People will talk," she said. "They already do," I answered. "Let them. I'm done paying for a quiet life with pieces of myself." I hung up and took the trash out. One white bag, one heavy envelope somewhere inside it. The alley smelled like rain and old cardboard. I tied the knot and set it by the bin. There's a kind of strength that doesn't flex. It just says no and doesn't explain. I went back inside and slept hard. I met Rachel months later at a small gallery off Milwaukee, a Thursday opening with lukewarm white wine and sculptures made from rusted bike parts. She laughed at something the artist said that wasn't funny, then caught me not laughing and smiled anyway. We walked 2 blocks for decent coffee and talked like old strangers. Jobs, books, the lake in winter. She asked the question in a softer voice. "Do you have siblings?" "I had a brother," I said. "Not anymore." I told her the short version, not the footage, not the paperwork. Just the bones, the woman I loved, the brother who wasn't, a wedding that told the truth louder than I ever had. She didn't interrupt. She didn't fix her face into sympathy. She just listened, eyes steady, hands around a warm cup. When I finished, she looked at the table a long beat. Then she looked at me. "That's brutal," she said. "But it sounds like they earned what they got." "They did," I said. "No pleasure, just the weight of it." She leaned across the small table and kissed me. Simple, certain, not a promise, not a performance, a signal. The city noise moved past the window like weather. Inside, it felt like clear air after a long storm. "They deserved it," she said again, smiling. "Yeah," I said. "They did." 5 years later, we married the way you fix a broken bone, quietly, correctly, so it heals right. 50 people, backyard string lights, food that tasted like home, no hashtags, no content, no drone shots, just chairs that didn't match and music you could talk over. My parents came early and stayed late. Dad shook my hand longer than needed. Mom pressed her cheek to mine and said nothing, which said everything. Caleb wasn't invited, not out of spite, out of clarity. Some doors don't reopen. Some bridges are better as water. Rachel moved through the evening like a steady flame, laughing with my mother, stealing fries off my plate, catching my eye across the yard with that look that says, "I'm here, really here." We cut a small cake. We didn't throw anything. We kept what mattered. When it was time, she clicked her glass and waited for the room to settle. No big speech, no performance. To honesty, she said, voice even, eyes on me, then on everyone who'd earned the right to be there. And to love that doesn't need a spotlight to be real. Glasses rose, soft and sure. We drank. The night wore a simple face and fit us perfectly. Happiness didn't shout. It held our hands and stayed. I stood back and watched the yard breathe. No secrets passing between people like notes, no angles, no calculations. Just my father refilling the coffee, my mother stealing a slice of cake, Rachel's aunt telling a story that had nothing to sell in it. The laughter came easy and left nothing to clean up. I tried to name the feeling and didn't have to. It wasn't euphoria. It wasn't revenge settling its tab. It was the weight I'd carried so long finally setting itself down and staying where I left it. The world didn't change. I did. I'd stopped auditioning. I'd started living. I looked at the faces, 50, not 500, people who show up for the unglamorous parts, sickness, boxes to move, late-night calls that begin with, "Are you awake?" People who would tell me the truth even when it cost them warmth. Rachel found my hand. Her thumb traced circles like a small pledge. The lights hummed. The wind moved through the trees and didn't take anything we needed with it. For the first time in years, I felt it settle in, clean and deep. I'm at peace. We cleared the plates. We stacked the chairs. We turned the music down and the future up. And tomorrow, I'd tell you the rest. Here's what I learned, and I'm saying it plain. There's love that performs and love that shows up. One needs a crowd, the other holds your hand when no one's watching. I lived through the first kind and chose the second. Justice didn't come with trumpets. It came as a quiet ledger, receipts, dates, faces telling the truth out loud. Not vengeance, consequence. It didn't make me bigger. It made me cleaner. Honor isn't given. You guard it, boundary by boundary, door by door. I used to think forgiveness meant letting people back in. Sometimes forgiveness is letting them live with their choices while you live with yours, on your side of the line. And the truth? It's not a speech. It's a tool. You don't swing it for sport. You use it to cut yourself free. I didn't beat anyone. I just stopped letting them step on me. I survived the spectacle and built a life that doesn't need one. Smaller circle, softer rooms, real love, the kind that keeps promises when the lights are off. If you're standing where I stood, hear me. You don't have to win the crowd to win your life. Choose the boundary. Choose the quiet. Choose the truth. If this hit you, say so. Tell me where your line is. Follow along. There's more to talk about. Hard choices, clean exits, honest love. Stay. We'll keep it real.